Hi, everyone. This is Martin Pytela, and I have with me today Matt Hazen. And Matt Hazen is the CEO of HCS, Human Consciousness Support, our supplier of an awesome product called Masterpiece. And Masterpiece has been making a huge difference, and we now have a proof. And today, Matt and I are going to discuss it. So let's do it. Hey, Matt, welcome.
Hi, Martin. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, today is a day filled with challenges, and that is a good thing.
Yes, it is. It's always good to strive for what we got to get to.
Yeah, we would be bored if there weren't obstacles, because that's how we get stronger, right?
Absolutely.
Resistance, acting against resistance. That's how we improve. Matt, I so appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I think that there's something indeed significant, and I would like you to get a chance to actually do that with the slide presentation that you brought over. What do you think of that? Yeah, maybe just take a bit of time to explain how you got to this. Or should I? Well, you tell me. When you want to slide up, just wave your hand.
Perfect. Yeah. So the company we're talking about today is Human Consciousness Support, but the product that we're talking about is Masterpiece. We've really brought on amazing, well-intentioned, righteous-minded folks like you, Martin, in your company, and other folks that are really trying to provide solutions to the real problems that are affecting the positivity of life on Earth and on all levels, and our vitality altogether. And so we're going to dig deep a little bit into kind of the chronological order of the steps that our company took in terms of doing third-party tested, peer-reviewed, verified clinical studies that have to do with detox, right? Removing not just heavy metals, but forever chemicals, even getting into the things like, the delivery system components of what, even mainstream media is now knowing is in the mRNA delivery system of the COVID vaccines that have shown to now not be effective and in fact, very harmful. And so, we're going to kind of show what a righteous, moving, navigating, intentioned group, we'll call it a company, but it's so much more than that, because like you're a part of us, and everybody that is really knowing that we need to see a great shift in what's going on here on planet Earth and the so it's amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's call it a movement. Let's call it a movement away from toxic and toward ecologically healthful. And this is supremely important, because the last 200 and something years since the start of the Industrial Revolution, we have been bringing out of the earth things that should have stayed buried, and things that are pushed either in the air or water or food or other ways. Every time you make a pound of chemicals, you bring it out from where it wasn't now into where it is, and you drop it onto the planet, and it just is added to the environment. And it's a geometrical thing. Since about 1800, first coal, then petroleum, then chemicals, then plastics, it's all being added to the pile of things that we humans have no physiological equipment to deal with.
Yeah. We're taking things from nature, and then we're doing processes like even just burning it, right? And combining two natural ingredients. It begins to synthesize and modify its way away from the natural cycle of life. And we've seen these kind of synthetic derivatives. We can call them processes that we find from the industrialized revolution, maybe. And, to really spend any time trying to figure out who's to blame, I don't think is very fruition oriented, right? Because it's like, doesn't matter at this point. It's more about let's identify the for sure problems that are leading our planet and all life on it into this worldwide health crisis, and more importantly, the solutions that we can implement, and not just into our individual daily lives, but into our communities and into the environment ultimately, that is going to turn this ship around that we're facing.
Yeah, and I think it's a mistaken belief of the engineers and the scientists that they think that they can outsmart nature and outrun nature, and that there is such a thing as a technological solution to a problem of toxicity. But
Yeah.
up to now, only natural things have worked ecologically. Yes, you can find some ways of messing around with detoxing methods that may work and yet may also leave stuff behind. I don't even want to point fingers at anything. But what I do know is that what you did is supremely clever, because you went and took two things, one being zeolite, which is a natural binder, and then plankton. No, it's not plankton. It's plasma, right?
Yeah, plasma. Yeah.
Ocean
Plasma one.
nature-made plasma. This is the oceanic plasma or marine plasma, which again is highly compatible with our bodies, because we have, as part of this life on this planet, evolved here with the seawater. So we combine with that. And then the third thing that is not discussed enough is the consciousness part, the subtle vibrational component that is added to this product. And it's hard to define, because material scientists will say, well, can I touch it? Can I measure it? Can I this or that? And it's subtle, it's vibrational, it's hard to define, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And, we just take a couple steps back from, about 2 minutes ago when you're speaking. I think that you really came to the right turning point of where our conversation should maybe kind of start to define itself. And that's really when we're dealing with like science or technology. If we take the good science, what I would call the nature science, what we can find in looking into the cycles and patterns that we see in our natural, non-colonialized environment, right? Go into the middle of the rainforest and try to see what's represented in terms of life and death cycles. And when we look at those sciences, which is what Masterpiece is a part of, we don't see where that can be used against life. But if we start taking things and we start dealing with unnatural electrical grids, unnatural frequency grids, where we can make a frequency be good for humanity or life, or bad. And unfortunately, on Earth right now, I think we can all agree that whoever is running the show doesn't necessarily matter, but it certainly isn't built on benevolence. And we can see that the technology that's been synthesized or modified is being used as weapons, as things that are harmful, vaccines. That's what the technology is unfortunately being exposed as. And so what Masterpiece really was a simple look at all of life on Earth. And we say, okay, if we know all of life everywhere is being attacked, where can we find on Earth where it's still very clean, purified? And why? What's those answers behind why that area is doing so much better than other areas if everything is dealing with the same bombardment? And what we find is a very natural detoxifying, chelating, binding product, zeolite. And so we go, okay, well, that's something to look at, and we better find the cleanest, best source. And that's what Masterpiece ultimately did. But then also to go, okay, well, what is it in? What's its environment, right? What's the terrain that it's found in? And the terrain is seawater. And seawater is, a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the ocean makes up most of the world, but do you know that if you dilute down the seawater, 3 parts distilled or reverse osmosis water to 1 part seawater, you actually have an identical match, 99 point whatever percent perfect to our blood, to our extracellular fluids, to what roams around in our body and makes sure that our body stays healthy and clean and purifies itself. And so we combine those two, and then we structure them. And the entire company was put together by fearless and incorruptible people who are really just trying to find something and surround themselves and put their time and energy and effort into something that was going to help the world. And I would say absolutely kudos to you, Martin, because almost from day one, when we approached you with this, you seen it for what it was. And, obviously we have a big ship and everybody's on it right now. And, but you were absolutely one of the first that walked on deck when we couldn't find any other recruitments and said, no, I see it. And, such the story is.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that we're having less easy time of getting our message out because the forces that are resisting it own the media. It's the folks with money and the folks with the ownership of the platforms that are making our lives less easy to manage. But I'm committed to persisting and will prevail.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're absolutely right. We're not going to get any support from the algorithm. The same people that own the algorithm and knowledge and information and social media platforms and all that, the internet, whatever you want to call it, those same people own, we can call them BlackRock or whatever, but it's like they own the same retail stores, right? So it's like the ability that Masterpiece could go get put onto a shelf and make all these other products that don't work obsolete and mess up their business model, their monetized model all the way. There's no chance that we would get Costco or Walmart on the side of Masterpiece. Just like there's no chance we're going to get the internet and, all of that on the side. It really takes people having a second thought, doing a little bit of research, a little bit of critical thinking, which is kind of becoming a rare thing in our world, to be able to say, okay, hold on. Can't we inherently know that our great creator, whatever we want to call him, whatever faith or religion we have, that whatever that is, got it right the first time. And the only thing that's keeping us from having that higher power, that higher consciousness, that empowered self of ours is the poisoning that they purposely inundated us with. And so if we just kind of say, okay, we have something that in all ways that are measurable and not measurable, right? We can go by just how people feel, but we can go by qualitative, quantitative, however we want to put it. We have all bases covered with Masterpiece so that all the other wonderful supplements, all the other wonderful regimens and protocols that are working, used to work, will now work again. And get the root cause out, right? And then let the other things that you have done your research on to say, hey, this thing can work for me. You'll see that it works for you then.
Yeah, there are some multiple points worth highlighting, which is one, it's nearly impossible to solve a problem caused by toxicity by adding toxic things into the mix, which is the model of the pharmaceutical industry. They are interfering with normal function by throwing poisons at it. They're additive. We're using the subtractive approach where we're taking away things that are blocking the natural expression of life. And that's done in two ways. One is remove the obstacles, and the other one is allow the plasma to insert itself to the void where it belongs, right? Making up for the gaps.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and the third one is the consciousness lift. Those of you listening to this who have been watching or who are familiar with work of David Hawkins from his book Power versus Force, where he published Map of Consciousness, you can see that a person can graduate or mature into higher levels. Well, Masterpiece, and I have tested it over and over, helps me lift myself several rungs on that ladder, which is phenomenal. Those of you who will start using Masterpiece will notice that your ability to exist in the world will drift from fear toward love, from scared toward aware and controlled, something of that sort.
I totally love what you're saying. Yeah. It's kind of like if we can go back in time a little bit and let's all do our own individual mental checks of where we had like a breakthrough, right? And when you have that breakthrough and you're feeling good for whatever period of time you were going through it with, you talked to people, you communicated, you connected, you affected everything in your environment on the highest level at that point. What if that point was sustainable? What if what keeps it from being sustainable is these toxins that are really plaguing your vitality? And so to get that out, does it mean that you don't have to do any other work? Absolutely not. That would make no sense. But it gets out the root cause so that your work is supported better. And, it's going to take that, not just in individuals, people's lives to be able to live a better life, but for our families, which are critical to the change, right? Better families is important. Better communities is important. Better, spreading the regions and everywhere else,
Yeah. And so the point is removing the physical impediments to harmony, but also removing the vibrational, the invisible impediments to harmony. And as you will see shortly, the testing that Matt has commissioned, paid for, and delivered is very, very clear.
It is. It really is. It's undeniable. It's truly irrefutable and unquestionable because it's actually what science and not scientism looks like. It's what a logical minded company group would do in order to prove out what they claim in terms of detoxing the body. And I really like how you break it up, Martin, because Masterpiece removes that physical root cause, that thing that has to be dug out, else the other stuff can't bloom. But it doesn't mean just digging it out is going to be enough. There's still work that you're going to have to do even individually, but it will be so much easier now that that physical root cause is gone that has always anchored you down.
Right. Shall we show them?
Let's do it.
All right. So we have slide one.
Ow. So
what did you actually commission? What did you actually do?
We set out on a path and a journey and a road that had never been taken by a detox product or formula or company that had a detox product had done before. And you were around it, Martin, from the very beginning. So this is actually just a chart of our initial pilot study. And we wanted to figure out, first off, there was a big conspiracy theory about if graphene oxide, hydrogel, these things were real or not, or they were just conspiracy theory jargon or rhetoric or not. And rhetoric. And what we searched out was, let's see, we found a lab that was in Germany, and we wanted to, and we could test the inside the cell, intracellular level of blood in study participants. And so we were a brand new product. It took the right kind of formation of what we were doing. So we actually had Caroline Mansfield being one of our study participants, who is also a study coordinator. That was very important because if you have a product that you think is going to do a lot of good, there's a possibility from what we've seen in the world of it also doing just as much bad. And so we wanted to have a lot of skin in the game. Caroline was one of the study participants. We had 3, and that's because we're a brand new company. We didn't have investors backing this. This took every last dollar of our company at its infancy to pull this study off. And so we wanted to figure out if we could actually clean out the blood from things like graphene oxide, hydrogel, and other common forever chemical microplastics. Yeah. And we wanted to see that it worked. And so this chart kind of shows, look, this is an intracellular toxicity levels inside the cells of your blood, the most critical part of your body. And we wanted to measure them after 35 days and then after 90 days. And what you can see from the beginning baseline numbers to the end, the percentage of reduction of these cytotoxic, genotoxic, and magnetic toxic substances. And when it comes to graphene oxide, PFOs, PFOAs, polyethylene, which is the category with the hydrogels, and polypropylene, which actually has a big component in the weird biosystem that is attached to the transhumanism kind of agenda that's going on out of the World Economic Forum that they've talked openly about for over 20 years. And what we've seen is reductions of 60 to close to 70%. And that is, it's mind-boggling to know that we have something that can, in a world where we're constantly re-bombarded with poisons, that we have something that literally people can take 10 drops of. You know, we can go like this a couple times a day. And that's what happened. Do that a couple times a day. Don't change anything else in your life. And these are the levels that you could expect from our past study participants to be able to clean your blood out. And that was amazing. And so that kind of left us into the logical reasoning. At that time, this is 2 years ago, we knew that there was documentaries coming out. The Blue Truth documentary was one. There was one in France called the Linux documentary that had 30 and 112 study participants. And we knew that people had a graphene-based biosystem, and we knew that they had a graphene-based biosystem in their body that was emitting, that you could register a Bluetooth signal on. So, you know, you turn on your Bluetooth phone inside of a building and you see everybody that has their Wi-Fi open. And we knew that people were emitting Bluetooth signals, which were MAC addresses. And so,
let's come to that in a moment. So we have the slide up. So here we have some of the chemicals, like you already named them, graphene oxide being the first bar and PFOAs being the second one, and so on. All of these are things that are highly unfriendly to life, and reduction of 60%.
Yeah.
So that was the first 3 people, 90 days.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're essentially, this is the summarizing the words that you just went through, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And this study was published in a peer-reviewed article called ACTA Medical and Scientific Journals. So it held up to the highest level of science rigor known. And this is, we can see where Masterpiece Zeolite Z was found to be safe and effective in removing these nano and micro level toxins. And so if we look at the chart, which is kind of makes it easy for all of us, we can see how the beginning numbers on the left were very high. And then we go to the middle chart and we see after 35 days, which isn't even a full bottle of Masterpiece, those levels come crashing down. Mm-hmm. And then we see after 90 days, they keep tracking down. You know, unfortunately, our environment and the terrain that we are breathing in, taking water in, we're ingesting things in, it's very toxic right now. So we can't get all the levels out. But there has never been another detox formula that did these studies that showed these findings that were, again, irrefutable.
Yeah.
And so it led us into our next study. And in our next study, we took blood results, we took urine results, we took hair results of heavy metals. The lab that was doing the forever chemical testing in Germany, they were very outspoken about the testing that we were doing. They were very excited. They tried to sound the horn. And unfortunately, their founder was murdered. He was murdered. He was in very good health.
Shocker, right? Like, this is a small business that's doing good work, and all of a sudden the chief operator, founder, whatever, disappears.
Yes, all of that. He fell deathly ill at nighttime after he had gotten back from an event, and he died in the middle of the night, which is, what you would expect to see from a poisoning. And he was becoming very, very, very outspoken, especially on LinkedIn. And it was devastating, but we didn't have the blood results for final, but we did have the blood results for the hair and urine. And I'm sorry, we did have the hair analysis test, and we did have the urine test.
Yeah.
And so what we found, this test, we went from 3 study participants in our previous test up to 24 participants. And we were testing things like arsenic, aluminum, lead, mercury, barium. These are very, very toxic, harmful, toxic heavy metals. And we had a placebo group. We had a placebo-controlled group, so we could see how little, almost no difference the placebo group had. But when we compare the placebo group up against the control group that was taking Masterpiece, we found unprecedented results that any heavy metals or hair test an analyst would say is not possible before Masterpiece. Everyone would say is not possible before Masterpiece. But the results we had were showing like your aluminum. If you were someone that thought they were taking Masterpiece but wasn't taking Masterpiece, you got rid of aluminum 190 some percent faster if you were taking Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Arsenic was 260 some percent. And you're dealing with like lead at 200 and some percent, mercury at 170 some percent more by taking Masterpiece as compared to being a placebo and thinking you were taking Masterpiece. That was huge, because what you would find if you were having lunch and dinner conversations with hair tissue mineral analysis analysts and practitioners, they would tell you that if they see a change of 10 to 20% compared, if they were doing infrared sauna and taking a smorgasbord of products, that was a big victory. If someone could find a way to get a 10 or 20% change in the mobilization of metals, we were seeing everything across the board in the 100%. And that's just so amazing,
Yeah, truly. It's highly significant. Looks like nickel didn't get much of a difference between placebo and
nickel didn't at all, and either did tin, and that baffled us a little bit, because we know that
I guess you have to say, well, they are not binding with zeolites too well.
When it comes to this study with 24 participants, that's the only conclusion you could come to. Yep. Now, we are currently in the midst of an ongoing study that is done out of over 20 countries that involves over 400 study participants at this point. And we are seeing mobilization of the nickel. It's just we had to get a bigger study pool. And also we needed to see people that were on Masterpiece for a while, because the zeolite has an affinity. It chooses up with the strongest positive charged materials, which is like lead and mercury. And so it digs those ones out first, and then it starts choosing up with nickel. And so nickel's kind of one of the last things that we get.
So as you continue, you will start finding the lesser affinity toxins and pulling them out.
That's exactly what we have. Yeah. We just haven't published on those because it takes a while to get to that. But absolutely.
This one tickles my fancy.
Oh yeah. Glyphosate. If glyphosate was the grandpa, the original child was DDT. It became bad. They killed it, and then they came out with Agent Orange, and that was the grandpa became the father. And so the father of glyphosate is Agent Orange, and then Agent Orange became bad, and so then they came out with glyphosate and the new glyphosate, and so that's what we studied. And so we had a total of 27 study participants, and the beginning levels. Now, again, half these people, literally half, were vaccinated and half were not. Okay. And so,
well, glyphosate is not related to vaccinations. It's
right. It's not, but they have a lot of the same compounds, unfortunately. And then you also have where literally these are people from all over. And so we had different walks of life, and that was important. And the level started off at 345. And so you have people that were eating raw fruits and vegetables, that were ozoning their food. There was 2 people like that. there was just different. There are some people that were, very probably toxic from their lifestyle choices.
Right.
But what we do know is that the average number started at 345, and after 35 days, it was down to 166 or 68. That's incredible.
Right.
And that means the person's body is under a lot less burden and has a lot less toxins affecting it, so that it can get ahead of the curve and start to heal itself. And then at day 90, it was very similar to our first study and second study, where we can actually see the levels go down from 345 down to 118. Like, wow, that's pretty incredible.
Right. And so one could expect that it's going to continue to get lower. Of course, this is a geometric or logarithmic decline. The biggest change is always the early part, but you should continue because it will continue to go down. And
absolutely, we're testing this in terms of nanomoles per liter. It's a very small measurement.
Right. It is nanomole per liter. That's a parts in billion.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And what we're looking at is this: glyphosate is destroying the microbiome in the gut. That's what it's responsible for. So it's the leaky gut, the immune system destruction, the emotional health decline. All of those things are highly affected by what's going on in the intestine. And that's what this one affects.
Yeah. It definitely affects a whole lot of things in our body. It's basically a monster.
So here's a short one. You started talking about the electronics and how you could actually find people as radiating or pretending to be an electronic device. This is usually caused by the mRNA shots, right?
Yes, and the PCR test. And so this is sometimes where we'll even lose the most aware audience, right? Because this is where the most distorted, perverted sci-fi movie meets reality of today's world. And, it's a hard one for so many people to swallow, but it's completely irrefutable. There has been major documentaries produced that show that this phenomena is a fact of the world we live in. And what we have seen is people who have taken the COVID jab or have gotten PCR tested, they will, just like their phones or computers have an identifying signal that can be found and picked up on and connected to, their bodies will emit that same Bluetooth transmission called a media access control, or a MAC address. Not like a Mac computer, but like a MAC address. It's a different thing.
Well, essentially, it says that you are an antenna.
Yeah, and the patents also show that you are owned. You're now a genetically modified organism to them. Yeah. You were a human organism, and just like corn and trees and regular cucumbers and watermelons, they can't be patented. But if you modify them and you make them seedless and you put your own synthesized, modified, unnatural version to it, then you can patent them. And so humans have patents on them, and this media access control gives those patent holders control of you, essentially. No matter how crazy that sounds, if you do a little bit of research, you will see that this crazy story we're talking about is true.
Yeah, the patent was issued to Microsoft, and it truly is out there. And so anyway, the study here documents that after 1 month, one person dropped one, and after 2 months, 2.5 months, everybody became non-detectable again.
Yeah, perfect summation. Yeah. You broke it down as fast and as right on as possible. If you look to the right of this slide, you'll see that participant number 1, Natalie, she had 2 COVID vaccines and over 10 PCR tests. So she was layered with this stuff. She had 2 different MAC addresses. She didn't just emit one. Study participant 2 had 3 COVID jabs and 30 plus PCR tests, right?
Yeah.
So participant 3 had 2 COVID jabs, and participant 4 had, get this, Martin, 3 COVID jabs and 50 plus PCR tests. She was
Yeah.
working in a government agency. Every day she walked through, they had to PCR test her.
Yeah.
So we had our work cut out for us because we didn't want these people to change anything. So we couldn't. What's funny is these people showed up 2 months before this, along with 30 people total, and we had 30 different people emitting MAC addresses. There was 8 people that showed up the second time. And so we had 2 different days that we had 8 people emitting MAC addresses. And 4 of the 8 showed up for the baseline or the beginning study day, because compliance and getting people to drive hours to the middle of nowhere to walk through a field is not the easiest thing to do when you're doing a study. People want to be able to have laziness and be able to just sit there and be study participants. So, we got 4 people out there, which we loved because it's a baseline test. It's a beginning test. We want to make sure we're identifying the phenomena is real, exclude all the variables, and be able to identify the problem, put them on a possible intervention product, which was Masterpiece, and a longitudinal study, which means they're going to keep coming out so we can see if there's progression. And like you said, after 35 days, we removed 1 of the 6 MAC addresses of these 4 study participants. But after 78 days, which, we don't know when the actual all the MAC addresses turned off, but we do know by 78 days when we brought them out to the field, 100% remediation. 100% of the people who have been patented were no longer patented. And if that isn't as beautiful and as important to humanity, really, in all life on Earth, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah. No, this is important. And so this Radcliffe UK study that was done over the 2.5 months, that's what we're describing here, yeah?
Yes. And this whole study, when the people came out from on each day where they came out to the field to be studied, we had David Icke's production team with 4 different camera angles, videoing the entire event. And so we had a drone footage that was up top, given a top angle. We had 2 different still angles. And then we also had David Icke's wife walking around with a mobile camera angle, catching every last thing that was happening. So the naysayers and the trolls wouldn't be able to refute what we had found.
Yeah. All right. So now comes the hair analysis. This one really impressed me because you were actually able to get a whole lot of people to jump in and submit their hair at the beginning and commit to doing it again after 4 months, right?
Yeah. I'd say, what company would build on their website a small group of do-gooders is what I call human consciousness support.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not
by
famous.
The way, the typical charge for a hair analysis is about $150 to $180 every time you do it.
Yeah.
So
yes.
It's not a tiny expense.
No. But what's important about a hair test compared to a blood test or urine test, it's not just you take their blood and their urine, it's for that moment of time. When you're taking a hair test, you're taking a whole snapshot of 3 months of time. Yep. And so you get a much better idea. You get levels of minerals, you get levels of toxic metals, how good they're extruding out of the body. You get a more systemic and broad spectrum idea of what's happening. Yeah. And so the hair test is considered much more comprehensive than a blood or urine.
Yeah.
And so what we offer.
I'd like to give an analogy. When you go to your doctor and have your blood glucose tested, that's what's your blood glucose right now. But if they measure the HbA1c, that actually shows the glycation of your red blood cells. And that is giving you the 90-day average of how you're doing. And so with that, you're able to see what's going on in your body long term. Likewise, with this hair trace mineral analysis, we're able to tell you what's really going on without the blips of up and down day to day.
Yeah. 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 It's a perfect analogy. And, so what we offer for anybody that hasn't started Masterpiece is they can be a part of this study, anybody, anywhere, minus New York, because New York don't allow you to get your hair test results. I don't know what type of weird law they have, but that's what we found. But you can order 2 different hair tests and 3 bottles of Masterpiece, and it's for $369. And it's a good way to be able to learn your levels before and after taking an effective detox product and know how your body changes. But even if you can't afford that, which a lot of us can't, and I get that, even if you can't, you can rely on the fact that this is a benevolent, moving, righteous intentioned company that is putting this stuff there so that we can all figure out how our bodies are really working and changing, especially with Masterpiece. And so even if you can only buy a bottle or 2 at a time, then you'll at least be aware of what is happening to your body as you are improving your health journey and, getting on your health journey. So.
Right on. Yeah, so this is an invitation directly from HCS, Human Consciousness Support. I can direct you there through Life Enthusiast. We'd be happy to send you a link where you go to the website and you can purchase. Indeed, you get both the hair analysis as well as the bottles of Masterpiece. So you would be getting it there. I'm happy to provide it. In fact, I'm going to put it into the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're blessed to have you part of our team, Martin. You have so much wisdom, and you've been in this for such a long time for the right reasons. I've had so many experts and so many people that are overly qualified in this entire scope of work, put their blessing on you, so to speak. And I'm just always appreciative that you're always trying to bring this out for everybody, this knowledge, so that we can all get better, because it's going to take all of us being at our best at this point.
Right. Indeed. That's what's needed. And of course, here we are telling the world, look, when you take this, and it's not that unaffordable, it's a $30 a month going on average. You do that, $1 a day. Where will you get your freedom for $1 a day?
Right. To be able to know that you're disattached from their weird sci-fi system, and then getting it deeper into the bushes, like you're spending money, you're buying healthier food and it's costing you more money. You're buying supplements to help your health. Okay, well, why not get the root cause of why these things aren't working like they used to out of the way, so that all these things you're already buying will work better anyways.
Yeah. Remove the blocking factors to the natural wellness and homeostatic system to flourish in your body. In my flowery way.
I agree. I totally agree. You put it perfect.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Matt. I don't think there's much more that should be said. We are going to help restore the health of the nation.
All right.
Hey. Hey.